How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're gonna determine will we see the next possibilities of Tropical Storm Danielle develop in the Atlantic within the relatively near future. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. So, of course, in my last video, we've been talking about the possibility that of a tropical wave that potentially could have the chance of developing into Tropical Storm Danielle by next week, and the European model is still persisting on the fact that a tropical wave will come off the West African coast right around this weekend. And while the European model at this time does not necessarily develop this into tropical storm status, it's at least something to keep note of, because anytime we see a tropical wave in the main developed region that has at least a well-defined center circulation and a well-defined low pressure system, it's always at least something to keep note of, especially since there's a lot of days for the forecasts to change and iron out themselves out to the point where maybe we could see conditions become more favorable by the time the weekend hits for Tropical Storm Danielle to develop. So if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that low pressure system comes off the West African coast right around the 5-day mark as early as Friday, and you see that there's a lot of stable air towards the northern side of where the convection is okay and pretty much surrounding the low pressure system. So that may be an inhibiting factor, but we are seeing an influx of convection associated with this low on the southern side, so it's at least something to keep in mind. And we do see that the low pressure system remains relatively weak, but it still maintains its status of at least maintaining a well-defined low pressure system, which is definitely something to keep in mind. And even behind this tropical wave, we have the possibility of another tropical wave that does have a little bit more thunderstorm activity embedded within it. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, I said there's going to be a couple of inhibiting factors for this low pressure system as it moves further westward. For one thing, like I said, is that there's going to be a high amount of stable air throughout the northern Atlantic, more particularly the northern side of where this low is located. So that certainly could certainly suppress any sort of strong convection going on right now, center circulation for Tropical Storm Danielle to develop. But there's still a lot of time to iron out how far south or how strong that stable air will be right around the main developed region. We do see that associated with this Bermuda Azores high, there's a lot of dry air coming on the eastern side of this ridge, which certainly could be an inhibiting factor, especially since we do have dry air on the western side. So far, there hasn't been many changes compared to yesterday. One thing I will say, though, is that the low is a little bit further southward than it was in my last forecast video, which is definitely not very good news, because if this low pressure system was a little bit northward, not only would it experience cooler than average sea surface temperatures, cooler than 80 degrees, which would inhibit its possibility of developing into a tropical storm, but also it'll encounter more of that dry air if it were to move further northward. And of course, it has a much higher possibility of just moving out to sea rather than westward towards land if it were to move a little bit further northward. In this run, it's a little bit further southward, so maybe this does have maybe a slightly higher possibility of developing thanks to the latitude alone. But we still do see the dry air is going to be a major inhibiting factor, where you see that the European model still wants to dissolve this tropical wave right around the middle of the main development region, as it just seems like the dry air is a little bit too much for this low pressure system to handle, despite having a decent amount of moisture on the southern side of it, which is definitely something to keep in mind. And hopefully it stays that way, that we'll see enough dry air to inhibit tropical cyclone development. In terms of the wind shear, in fact, the European model is expecting the wind shear to be relatively light as it moves westward. Really, the only main inhibiting factor will be the dry air to the north of it. But I'll keep you guys updated regarding any changes when it comes to the forecast, when it comes to the amount of dry air that's going to be north of this low pressure system. And of course, we need to pay close attention to the latitude of where this low pressure system will move, because if it moves a little bit further northward, the chances definitely do decrease that we'll see Tropical Storm Danielle. So I'll keep you guys updated regarding any change with the forecast. So far, compared to yesterday, really the only difference is that the latitude of this low pressure system is a little bit southward. So the chance of Tropical Storm Danielle has slightly risen for this weekend, but it's still highly uncertain. I want to emphasize that, and a lot could change between now and let's say this weekend. So I'll keep you guys updated regarding that in terms of what the GFS model is forecasting when it comes to this low pressure system. For one thing is that the GFS model is expecting a little bit more wind shear, so that should inhibit organization of any tropical wave coming off the African coast, where we do see a little bit of an upper level high located right around the Saharan Saharan desert coast, where it's bringing a little bit stronger than usual wind shear right around the western African coast, which is the reason why the GFS model is a lot less lenient on really developing any sort of even a well-defined low pressure system that has the possibility of developing. So if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that there's going to be moisture that comes off the African coast, an influx of it right around the same time period at which the European model wants to bring a tropical wave. And we do see a low pressure some further west of this moisture you see right here. But if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that the dry air just seems to be a little bit too much for it, but we still do see that area of moisture. So we just need to pay close attention to how much dry air there will be. That will be the key. The GFS model in this scenario is far south enough to where it won't really the sea surface temperatures won't really be an issue. What's really would be the issue is the amount of dry air surrounding it, and the wind shear, of course, is a little bit stronger than usual. So right now it seems like the computer models are still lenient that a tropical storm won't develop this weekend or even beyond that, but a lot could change between now and this weekend, and so we just need to pay close attention to any changes with the computer models when it comes to the amount of stable air, and I'll keep you guys updated once we do get those updates from the computer models. Now, taking a look at the sea surface temperatures, you see that if you're north of the Cape Verde Islands, then the sea surface temperatures are cooler than 80 degrees. So the latitude will be key in determining how strong the possibility is we will see Tropical Storm Danielle. At this point, the trend is a little bit further southward, right along the border between the sea surface, the water that's above 80 degrees, and the ocean water that's below 80 degrees. So but we need to see it be very south enough to where it'll be over that warm water to have a strong possibility of developing, considering the fact that the other factors aren't really going in its favor as of right now. So that's something going to be key in determining if we'll see Tropical Storm Danielle by this weekend or not. Now, taking a look at what the GFS model, spaghetti models are forecasting when it comes to low pressure tracks, we do see that the GFS model is at least developing a low pressure system by the 6-day mark. Some spaghetti models at least are developing it. And you see they're very weak, not really doing anything beyond this point, pretty much dissipating right in the middle of the main development region. But again, we need to see if there's going to be enough dry air for that to happen. And same goes for the other spaghetti models, the ECENS models, where we do see low pressure systems develop within the next 7 days just off the West African coast. But again, they're very weak, but I still do think there might be that possibility that a tropical storm could develop in the main development region. So I'll keep you guys updated regarding that this weekend as the forecast becomes a little bit more certain. Now, here's my forecast, pretty much the same thing as my last video, the same sort of track as my last video, maybe a little bit further southward than before. Tropical wave is expected this weekend, so as a result, there is the possibility of Tropical Storm Danielle. Currently, it's low, but still uncertain, so I'll keep you guys updated regarding any sort of when the forecast does become more certain with the computer models. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. As just be aware of this right around the main development region by this weekend, because we could see our next tropical wave. But yeah, guys, I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to stay tuned for further updates on on this potential tropical wave coming off the African coast by this weekend.